All right, Wyatt, let's take a look at your essay. So I'm going to start with your introduction, work my way through. I know we haven't talked about MLA format, but I did put this into double space format, so it's easier for me to go over and talk to you about this. So I'm going to say right away, even though this looks like a lot, your introduction is 3 sentences, and one of those, first of all, you've got 2 run-ons, some grammar issues that I'll talk about, and one of your 3 is 3 words. So that's not super great. So take a look at your hook. You define mercy killing, and then you have a random capitalization there. Does not necessarily, well, first of all, if you recall back to that introduction conclusion packet that I gave out weeks ago, one of the things that you should not ever start a paper with is the definition of a term. And this is one of them. It's not a good way to start your paper. And some of the other things I'm looking at is, even though the definition is right, we get lost here. Are done by the harm of a lethal weapon like a knife or gun. Not typically what the definition is. So if you're going to throw this in here, you need some context behind it, because it's not quite what mercy killing is on the broad spectrum of things. But even though there are the examples in Of Mice and Men with it, it's kind of up in the air, but just something to be mindful of. And then when you ask, is it right? Well, you don't answer that question. And as the author, you need to tell us. The only time you should really be asking the audience or reader a question is for your hook, the very beginning, the very first thing you have, or at the end. Typically, when you have questions, you need to answer them, especially in argumentative essays that are formal, okay? So as we move forward, you've got a run-on sentence here, and there's a whole lot going on here that I need to talk to you about. So, a friend or family member was in a car accident, and they were paralyzed from the neck down and turned retarded. Do they want to live suffering, not being able to move, eat, shower, or even pee by themselves? Some people don't think so, and they end that person's pain and suffering, which is called a mercy killing. Okay? So, introduction, you do not have a position you're taking. Your thesis needs to say, yes, it is ethical, or no, it is not ethical, and you don't have that. And then this is a hypothetical, which is kind of, I guess you could do it in your intro, but the problem is a friend or family member was in a car accident, they were paralyzed. I have no idea what you're doing with that beginning. Are you trying to get us to think, what if you had a friend or family member? Because that would make more sense. The way you have it worded right now doesn't work. And then when you use the word retarded, I'm just going to be straightforward with this. This is not a good word to use here because it doesn't work in this context. So if we really look, and I know how you all use this word, and it not the greatest word to use, but if we pull up a dictionary, okay, it's an outdated terms. People do see it as offensive, and yes, it's slower, limited intellectual or emotional development, but the way that it's typically used, let me get rid of the ed ending. It's typically used as, I think the way that you're looking at it and the way you intend to use the word, we'll get rid of the cap, is if you use it as a verb. So this does not really work in this context, okay? And then you have a series, and when you have a series like this, you need commas, able to move, comma, eat, comma, shower, comma, or even pee by themselves. And then this is just a run-on. You're throwing in a comma to combine all of this, and you're right. So this could be a mercy killing, but ultimately when it comes to your introduction, and I will wrap this up in the next 20 seconds because I spent way too long on your introduction, is you need to add more background to what mercy killing is, and you need a better hook, and you need to have a thesis that says, yep, it is ethical, or nope, it is not ethical. Because as we move into your next body paragraph, you're addressing this in a little bit of a different way. Let me look at this. So you have this about a mercy killing and a mice and men, an example. Something of mercy killing not ethical, mercy killing is it ethical. But we're going to look at this body paragraph and move forward, and then I'll tell you my accumulation of thoughts. All right, so with this first body paragraph, part of the problem is you have still not addressed what your position is. And I just looked at your conclusion to figure it out. And it looks like you're taking the position that killing is killing and it's not right, even blah, blah, blah. So you're saying it's unethical. Well, let me double check. See, here we go. So you're still wishy-washy at the end. You need to pick a side and go with it. So because I don't know what side you're doing, what I've done for some people is I will pull up on a separate document how to edit your paragraphs to make it better. But the problem is I don't know what position you're taking, so I don't know how to help you because I don't know what your position is here. But I'm going to pull this anyways, so I can talk about a few things. If you are, we're going to ignore that. I'm going to have to try to work through this. So mercy killing, is it ethical? That is not a topic sentence. So let me show you the two ways you can do this. One, you either start a topic sentence that says, based on the way you have this paragraph, you could say, due to, no, I don't like that. Mercy killing gives people a safe and humane way to end their lives, especially if they are in pain and are suffering. So if this is a position you're taking, that's fine. If you were using this as an opposition, what you would want to say is, if you would have already addressed how it's unethical, although mercy killing is unethical, people see it as a humane way of ending their lives. So whatever position you take from there would drastically change the rest of your paragraph, because you have the good examples there, but if you think it's unethical, then you would have the examples, and then you need to throw in something where you have example of, I don't know why that went tab instead of capitalized, but whatever. Example of how it is unethical and and then you need to analyze it and analyze how it outweighs evidence of it being ethical. This would end that part, okay? So that's how to do that. So you have the examples here. A couple of quote things as we go through this. Roswell, a man from Time Magazine. He's not a man from Time Magazine. He is a man who is mentioned in Time Magazine. He has nothing to do with the magazine other than his examples being used. So his wife with Alzheimer's, osteoporosis. You don't need this pronoun. Would not let his wife... Well, this does make sense. Let me read this out loud. Roswell stated that his wife with Alzheimer's and osteoporosis, he would not let his wife live her life suffering like an animal. To make this better, I'm going to go back here. Stated that his wife with Alzheimer's and osteoporosis would not live her life suffering like an animal. That wraps it up a little bit better there. And then a quote stating the fact that today a vast number of people who are alive would rather be dead, and people who believe mercy killings are ethical to believe in that quote. So it looks like you're adding additional words that you don't need. So you have that pronoun you don't need. This to doesn't need to be here. But we won't move on for the sake of time. Okay, so as I move on with the rest of your essay, so there's the word concerns. There is some word choice. You've got when they are killed, their possibility. That is the wrong word. You need THEIR. That is the wrong homophone. There's a few times where I'm not exactly sure what you're saying. So you already talked about the perspective of it's not ethical. So let me just talk about some of the content because I'm a little concerned with that. So back in the day, I don't know what you mean by back in the day. Is this 10 years ago? Is this when you were a child? Especially for you as an author, that is 15. What does back in the day mean to you? Because it means very different to me, potentially. And maybe you're even talking about 17th century. I don't know. You need to be clear what you mean by back in the day. That's not the best phrase to use. And then, I don't know what you're saying here, but not anymore. People are using methods like lynching, shooting, cutting, and other worse ways to die than peacefully with poison. I have no idea what you're saying here. Are you saying people don't use these anymore? Because they do. It's just the word choice, but not anymore. People are using methods like, I'm not sure what you're saying there. And the thing that I'm challenging, that I would like to challenge you on, is the way that you use your word choice. So be mindful of that. So you say some people that are not right in the head do not know what a good life is because blah, blah, blah. When you use the quote with discrimination against people with disabilities and then you imply that they're not right in the head, the thing is that's not necessarily true. Your brain just functions in a different way because you need to think about what is the normalization of how a brain functions, because then you actually do imply that everyone who has disabilities don't have a good life and they're made fun of or bullied. And I can tell you that is so not the case at all. So be mindful of how you're using these quotes and extending it, because you're kind of using some hypotheticals and you're making some generic assumptions that are not necessarily true. And then we move on to your next body paragraph. You talk about some mercy killings that are going on. You have Candy's dog, and then you have when Lenny is killed. So, excuse me. This is on... Hold on, give me a second. 1 second. Sorry, I misspoke. You have 3. You have the puppies, you have Candy's dog, and then you have Lenny. And let me tell you, when you have 3 examples of a mercy killing, if you hypothetically, you need at least 1 sentence per, and I think you need more analysis in general than evidence. If you have 3 pieces of evidence, then you need at least 3 pieces of analysis. So you're at 2 out of 6 sentences as even a minimum. So you are missing 2/3 of your content for this paragraph, which is concerning. And then you just use these examples, but you don't have any analysis with it, because your analysis needs to tie back into whether or not it's ethical. And you don't do that at all through your essay. You just say, here's this position, here's this other one. And that's kind of an informational paper, informative. You're not doing anything with argumentative, and that's what you really need to get into, is the argumentative piece where you take a position, you stick with it, and you do need that paragraph that you acknowledge the opposing side. But you need to focus it on one position and go with it. And your evidence in your article needs to drive that analysis. So finally, looking at your conclusion, in the end, mercy killing has pros and cons that weigh each other out, but killing is killing, and it's not even, and it not even, and it not right even if what they're going through, contraction, is remarkably horrific. If a person wants their life to be over, let them do themselves the honor of taking their own life so the killer does not go to prison, or worse, get killed themselves. But on the other hand, if the person is so messed up that they can't even kill themselves because they are paralyzed, they can't move. Okay, do it for them. Do not make them suffer through pain and weakness. So overall, I need to talk about a few things. Your question is not, oh, well, don't do this because they'll be thrown in jail. Your question is whether or not it's ethical. The laws don't matter unless you put it in your analysis. Yes, it's illegal in a lot of states, but that should not be your main evidence of don't do this, because your question is whether or not it's ethical regardless of what the law is, because we have changed so many laws because we saw the unethical components of it. But overall, I talked about a few grammar concerns. You've got contractions, you've got run-on sentences, comma issues, and you never take a position, and you need analysis because you're not using good enough evidence to, well, you have evidence, but you need that to drive your analysis. So consider that as you move forward, because you will need to.